City of Stevens Point Redevelopment Authority meeting, recorded June 14, 2022.
I will call the June 14th meeting of the Redevelopment Authority to order. The director will take the roll.
Schleiss.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Kneebone.
Here.
Cooper is not here. I think he's actually excused. Sorry. Kemeter.
Here.
Laddick.
Here.
Barrett.
Here.
We have 6.
Alrighty, number 2, persons who wish to address the board on a specific agenda item other than a public hearing must register the request at this time. Those that wish to address the board during a public hearing are not required to identify themselves till the public hearing is declared open by the chairperson. We do not have a public hearing. Is there anybody registered, Director?
No, sir.
Alrighty, then we'll skip number 3. Moving right on. Number 1 on the regular agenda, update on 1700 Strongs Avenue. Director.
This specific property we did at the direction of the Redevelopment Authority last month. Did provide kind of a flyer to about 8 or 9 developers who have done work in the city in the past on zero lot line or duplex style development. More or less saying, if you're interested, let us know, send us a price and we'll bring it to the commission. There was some interest from those folks, but nothing has really come to fruition yet, obviously. As I described in the memo, the intention is to put a for sale sign on the property, see if that gathers any interest, and then we do have to update the city's website that we have properties that are city-owned or redevelopment authority-owned listed for sale. So we will do that in the coming weeks as well. So there's really no formal action. I just wanted to keep you up to date as we work through the process to dispose of that property.
Any questions for the director? Alrighty, moving right along. Assignment and amendment to the development agreement with the Opera House LLC. Director.
This is an actionable item this afternoon. As folks might recall, in September, the Redevelopment Authority was party to a development agreement with Wildcard Corporation, who is part of the Opera House redevelopment project. The Redevelopment Authority's role in that project was to sell a portion of Redevelopment Authority-owned property that was north of the former Fox Theater to Wildcard. They, within the original development agreement, had to have the property at full occupancy by July 1 of 2022. They were going to miss that deadline by about 6 months, mainly due to labor challenges in the local economy and supply chain challenges as well. City staff did ask them to provide us an updated timeline that they would have to follow. They've asked for an extension of the timeline through December 31st of 2022. They are feeling very confident they're going to be able to hit that deadline and not have to come back for, let's say, a second round of an amendment. We do, within the development agreement, have a clawback provision where if we really wanted to, the Redevelopment Authority could take the property back. I don't see any purpose that we would want that property back at this time, especially since they continue to make progress at the downtown site. So the city's finance committee and the common council did review this assignment and amendment and have recommended approval. More than happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, staff's recommendation is approval as well.
Commissioners, comments, questions, motion? Dave?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we extend the development agreement to December 31st, 2022.
We have a motion.
I'll second it.
By Gene. Comments, questions? Director, take the roll.
Schleiss.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Kemeter.
Aye.
Laddick.
Aye.
Barrett.
Aye.
6-0.
Motion carries. 3, request from Ibex for 1040 Main Street LLC for an underground electrical service easement through the Redevelopment Authority owned parking lot number 17. Director.
Ibex 1040 Main Street LLC is seeking an underground electrical service easement through the Redevelopment Authority owned parking lot. That's municipal lot 17. Currently, the electrical box that services the adjacent property is on the 1040 Main Street property, and in an attempt to redevelop the back of the downtown location, there is a request to relocate that utility box to essentially an existing green island that's adjacent to the garbage corrals that are in lot 17. Bill Sherrill, who's representing Ibex 1040 Main Street, is here to answer any questions you folks might have. There are a few other existing electrical boxes in that green space that I'd mentioned previously. Because this does go through the redevelopment authority, we do need your permission to enter into the easement agreement. I think it goes a long way to beautifying the back of those buildings. There's already a ton of existing electrical easements in that back area, and I don't see this as a detriment to any type of redevelopment of lot 17 or lot 16 in the future, so.
Is there any cost to the redevelopment authority on this?
To approve the easement.
Just approve.
Yep.
Commissioners, questions, motion? Gene?
I move that we grant the easement for the request from Ibex LLC for an underground electrical easement through the redevelopment authority property, owned property in the parking lot number 17.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
second by Mary. Discussion? Director will take the roll.
Schleiss.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Nebone.
Aye.
Demeter.
Aye.
Laddick.
Aye.
Barrett.
Aye.
6-0.
Number 4, discussion on possible acceptance of ownership of 1450 Water Street from the City of Stevens Point to the Redevelopment Authority. Director.
Last night, the City Finance Committee did review options for 1450 Water Street. That's Edgewater Manor, for those who are not familiar with the street addressing. They have recommended city staff move forward with the raising of the structure under the ownership of the City of Stevens Point. They did not move forward with transferring of the ownership of the property to the Redevelopment Authority. So that's just an update there. There is still a possibility that the Redevelopment Authority could take over ownership after the building's raised and ready to be redeveloped. But for the time being, the Finance Committee's recommendation was to keep it under city ownership and not Redevelopment Authority ownership.
No action is needed. Any questions of the director? John?
Just a comment. If you take that building down, I suspect you're gonna hear something about keeping it down and keeping it open and green space. If you had a developer in hand before the building was down, it might make the transition to development a whole lot easier and less controversial. And by that, I would refer you to the discussion that they had about Chase Bank being built on the river back in the 70s, 80s, whatever it
80s.
was. There was a fair amount of controversy about that building did not belong there, even though the building was on private property. It wasn't even public property at that time. This is public property. So just a comment that
Yeah.
you expect some pushback if you take it down before you have a developer in hand.
Yeah, in a perfect world, we'd have something lined up. Unfortunately, and we talked about this last night at Finance, if we were to keep the building up for even 12 or 18 more months, the temporary repairs that were made to the facade are beyond their useful lives. Additionally, the roof is in need of repair as well. And there was a concern that if you kept the building up, that we would actually become more liable for those types of repairs. Also, when we had the conversation with historic preservation, there was a question of, well, why don't we just leave it as park space and do something like what the city of Wausau did? And I'll reiterate what I said there, was in order for Wausau to do all those really exceptional improvements on the waterfront, they have to have private development, and that the TIF district has to be able to sustain not only the public improvements, but the only way you sustain that is through private development. So staff is trying to be as open and honest with the public as these questions come up, but the intention is not to keep that as park space. Of course, the walkway, the Green Circle Trail will remain as part of the redevelopment efforts, but in the long term, it will hopefully continue to be a developable site that is privately owned and that we make tax revenue off of. But yeah,
Just
as a former development director, John, I get completely where you're coming from.
Just a comment to try to make your life easier, that's all, it's gonna come.
We did have about a dozen developers in town last week, Thursday, and we were very conscious to show them the Edgewater site, and there was a lot of interest from that group in doing a project there. So I'm very hopeful that the minute it comes down is when we break ground on another
Is that part of the target census tract, or has the track's been moved?
It's actually just outside of the census tract.
So it's just
So
outside
the Berkshire, which is across the street from Edgewater, is within the census tract, but the Edgewater property is not.
And then it get moved in 2020 then? Okay. So that then kind of takes a
Yep.
arrow out of your quiver.
Yeah, good question.
Okay.
That's all the more reason why the city should turn that property over to the redevelopment authority to take the politics out of the development of this area, because if the aldermen start getting all kinds of grief, they're gonna bend. We've seen that in the past.
Not that
And,
we won't get the grief.
But we can get the grief, and there's really nothing they can, we're separate, so I would
Not my
suggest that
district.
they get that turned over to the redevelopment authority to keep it on the up and up.
If only we had an alder or two in this room that heard that.
Yes, I've seen all that, and that was part of railroad property, part Zeenhoff, and something
right.
else when the Chase
It
Bank
was
was
all
built.
private and still got grief on it.
Yeah.
Still
Marine
get
Bank.
grief on
It
it.
was Marine Bank at the time.
Yeah, there you go.
Geez, I
Bank
go
on the
back a
bank.
long way. Must be old.
You said it. So.
Alrighty, no action needed on that. Item number 5, adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business. Whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session on the following: A, possible sale of redevelopment authority owned land, more specifically parcel ID 281-2408-32-200425, and B, initial development review and negotiating the terms of a possible development agreement for the property at 1200 Main Street and the redevelopment authority owned parking lot. We need a motion to adjourn into closed session. Gene,
I'll move that we adjourn into closed session.
Second.
and Dave second. Any discussion? Director will take the roll.
Schleiss.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Nebo.
Aye.
Hemeter.
Aye.
Laddick.
Aye.
Barrett.
Aye.
6-0.
We are in closed session.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.